Thank you, it's great to be here. I don't have any slides because I think they're kind of boring. And I spent a lot of my life doing slides, they're quite embarrassing. Now, what I want to talk to you about today is essentially the issues of provincial New Zealand. Now, you might have seen that I've upset a whole bunch of people recently by calling them zombies. Now, I thought they're quite good fun, right? Zombie movies are brilliant. Now, the reason for that is sometimes you have to create provocation to create conversation. And part of being a leader is to create conversation, to start something that takes courage and conviction. And this story is something that I have seen over and over again through New Zealand, where the changes in the global economy, changes of the world, are leaving some places behind. This is not new, nor is it surprising. What we see in terms of the rise of Asia over the last 20, 30 years is exactly the same drivers that are hollowing out parts of New Zealand. It's things like education, things like urbanization, industrialization. These are the things that are creating massive opportunities right through the global economy. Yet, these are the same things that are causing economic decline in many of our provincial towns. When I went to places like Auckland, what I saw was a beautiful land with many opportunities and much potential. And yet, there are many people who are living there in poverty, in many, many generations of welfare dependency. There is potential and there is opportunity that is not being realized. Why is that? It's not because it's their fault. It's because the world has changed. It's because the things that were defining these places, the history of them, which is about the land, it's about the agriculture. Well, you know what? We are very good at agriculture. We're so good, we don't employ many people in it. In the latest census, we employed as many people in the primary sector as we did in the 1916 census. That is not a mistake, 1916. In a century, we have not created any new jobs in the primary sector. Does that not tell you why we have not been able to create opportunities in many of our provinces? And a result of that, people have voted with their feet, in most particular, young people. Young educated people simply cannot access opportunity in many of these provincial towns. And if you have education, you go to the cities to get work. And we've seen exactly that. In the last 100 years, the population of rural New Zealand has grown by exactly 0. Our entire population growth of the last century has been in urban centers. Kiwis are everywhere. In my previous job at Goldman's, I traveled around the world, met many fund managers, and you know what, one thing that always surprised me? How many Kiwis and Aussies you met in New York or in London or wherever you went. They're everywhere. We're dispersed. But it also means that in these small places, these provincial centers, they're left behind with concentrations of aging people, and in many cases, with not a lot of human capital and education. That holds them back even further. The thing that has really kickstarted a lot of these things and really has accelerated a lot of it is globalization. And this is why it's so often easy to point the finger at others who look different to say it's your fault that this has happened. The thing is, globalization is nothing new. It's something that's been happening for centuries, even thousands of years. And I think it was one of the first, in our first NZAL event when we talked about the center of the global economy. Did you talk about that? I think that was wonderful. You know, the center of the global economy starts with the Silk Route. By the 1970s, it's over the Atlantic. But since then, it's been shifting back towards the east. The world is going to the east again. And this is such a massive opportunity for New Zealand, right? You think about the costs of it, which are obvious. That low-skilled industries, the heavy manufacturing, the people, labor-intensive industries are hollowing out. And yet the opportunities for New Zealand are so clear. You look at what's happened with our trade with China in the last 20 years. It's gone from less than $500 million to over $11 billion within the space of 10 years. This can be described only as exponential. The opportunities are going to be repeated right across New Zealand. This is not just about China. It is exactly about all the other things that are going to repeat in many other places like Thailand, Malaysia, you name it. The opportunities are massive. And yet, our history, our culture, our institutions are still facing the West. We do not know how to connect with the East. I find it frustrating that we have twice as many kids in secondary school learning Spanish as Mandarin. You know what? China is our top trading partner. There is nothing wrong with Spanish, it's a beautiful language, but you know what? They're not going to buy our stuff. If you want to do real economic policy and real foreign policy, it has to be more than just real politics. It has to be a change in culture. It has to be a change in how we engage with the world. The reason why I want to do it with the lenses of provincial New Zealand is one of the biggest topics of today is inequality. And one of the lines that's being drawn on is geographic differences, both within the world and within the country. Some of the opportunities that we see in the global economy are coming entirely from Asia. And some of the risks we see in New Zealand are in the provinces. But we can turn it around. A lot of the assets, both in terms of natural capital and opportunities, still lie in the provinces. And being able to connect it up with the world, with the talent and capital that lives in Asia, is how we're going to be able to lift it up. But I have been to places where we still don't get it. I spoke at a tourism conference many years ago, and I said, visitors from China will double, and somebody stood up and honestly said, we don't want them. That doesn't happen anymore because we've seen the light. We have seen the opportunity and we can make change. But the story that I tell, and this is the story I want to tell you, is when I go to the provincial centres, I tell them that there is a burning platform for change. Where we have gotten to today is not your fault, but the forces that are shaping the opportunities in the world are the same forces that are causing decline that you see. The only reason it's decline is because we have chosen not to do anything. We have chosen to defend rather than to attack. The opportunities for New Zealand and provincial New Zealand in particular is not about putting up moats and barriers. It's about connecting with the world. And that conduit is you and me. That is our challenge and that is our opportunity. We know we're in the 18th century, but without us, this will not happen because it has to be much deeper. It has to be in the fabric in the society of New Zealand. Thank you.